So, welcome to Jumbo Eyes and welcome to our lecture series called Daily MCQ Practice. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs through a set of 4 to 5 MCQs. The idea is very simple. We want you to cover your current affairs for your prelims examination. And what better way to revise current affairs or cover current affairs for prelims than by getting the much needed MCQ practice? Because MCQ practice will come in really handy if you want to master your preparation for prelims. Now, current affairs form a very important portion of your prelims because 40 to 50% of the MCQs are directly or indirectly related to current affairs. Therefore, you cannot choose to ignore this section of prelims examination. And you need to cover this by getting 4 to 5 MCQs daily. Because 4 to 5 MCQs daily would add up to more than 1200 MCQs from the topic of current affairs alone. And 1200 MCQs from current affairs are more than sufficient. Okay? So, needless to say, you need to make this lecture series a part of your daily routine, a daily habit of yours. Okay. Now, let's start today's discussion with question number 1. Consider the following statements regarding quality of public expenditure index released by RBI. It has used data since 1991 to assess how well the government is spending taxpayers' money. As per this index, government's interest payments as a share of total expenditure has increased in recent years. The index points out to an increase in revenue to capital expenditure reflecting improvement in quality of expenditure. Okay. So the thing is, recently RBI has come out with a report called Quality of Public Expenditure Index. In this, the RBI has tried to analyze the quality of government spending since 1991. Okay, and basically RBI has tried to decipher certain trends. Now, as far as government spending is concerned or government expenditure is concerned, it has various components. Number one is capital expenditure, which is a good component. If capital expenditure has a higher share in your total expenditure, that is good quality expenditure because capital expenditure is all about government investments, infrastructure investments. Then revenue expenditure. Well, revenue expenditure is wasteful expenditure. If from your total expenditure, revenue expenditure has a higher share, then your expenditure is of low quality. It involves subsidies, salaries, pensions, freebies, all that. Then there is development expenditure, which is mostly part of capital expenditure only. Okay, and then eh, there are interest payments. Okay, now if for the past many years government has run high fiscal deficit, then that means government has borrowed a lot. It has increased debt a lot. And if debt on the government has accumulated over these years, then in future its interest payments to pay off that debt would also increase, right? So government's expenditure would increase, and most of the government's expenditure would be used to pay off previous debt. Therefore, you need to control fiscal deficit, which is also known as fiscal consolidation. Now, RBI tried to analyze all these things in its quality of public expenditure report, and it has found various good news. Okay, so first statement is correct. Since 1991, it has tried to assess quality of government expenditure. That is true. But what is the good news? Well, RBI says that capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP has increased. Revenue expenditure to capital expenditure has decreased. That means capital expenditure has increased, revenue expenditure has declined. This is good. Okay. As per this index, government's interest payments as a share of total expenditure has increased. No. In fact, RBI's report points out that interest payments as a percentage of total expenditure has declined, which means government has been reducing fiscal deficit. This statement is false, and this statement is also false because the index points out to an increase in revenue to capital expenditure. No, the opposite, decrease in revenue to capital expenditure. That is why it is good news. Okay. Plus, there were other good news as well. Development expenditure has increased, capital expenditure has increased, interest payments have declined, fiscal consolidation has been happening. So, all in all, overall, this report, this index pointed out that government is moving in the right direction. Clear? Only one statement is correct. A. Question 2. Which of the following statements are correct regarding rupee-dollar swap agreement? The tenure of such swap agreements is generally between 6 months to 3 years. The main aim, of such agreements is arresting fall in rupee and boosting liquidity in the system. These swap agreements lead to more credit creation and lending activities. So what is basically rupee-dollar swap agreement? What was the recent rupee-dollar swap agreement? So RBI and Indian banks have conducted this rupee-dollar swap agreement. Now banks have some dollars, RBI has some rupees. Okay. So under this agreement, banks have decided to buy rupees by giving dollars. Okay. If $1 is equal to 80 rupees, so banks have given $1 to get 80 rupees. Basically, banks were buying rupees from RBI and giving them dollars, selling them dollars. Okay. So banks were giving up on their dollar holdings and getting rupee instead. Clear? Now, this is rupee-dollar swap agreement, but this is just one part of the agreement. Okay. This agreement has a tenure. Let's suppose the tenure of this agreement is 3 years. That means after 3 years, banks would rebuy dollars from RBI. Okay. Today they are giving dollars and taking rupees. 3 years after this transaction, they would buy dollars by giving rupees. Okay. So they will sell dollars and then repurchase those dollars. Okay. This entire transaction is known as rupee-dollar swap agreement. Okay. Simple. Now, generally, the tenure of such transactions is 6 months to 3 years. So this part is correct. Now, why is this transaction being done right now? Okay. The thing is that when banks give out dollars and take rupees instead, well, banks have necessary liquidity into their system. Banks are injected with liquidity. Okay. Because Indian banks use rupees to lend money, right? So, by giving dollars, banks are flushed with rupee liquidity. That means rupee money supply in India would increase. Clear? Yes. So these swap agreements lead to more credit creation and lending activities. Now banks have more rupees. They would use that rupee or money supply or liquidity to lend more. So more credit creation, more lending. This is true. Okay. Plus, today banks are selling dollars to RBI and taking rupees. That means that banks are selling dollars and buying rupees. Okay, that means demand for rupee has increased and demand for dollar has fallen through this transaction. Yes. Now, when demand for anything falls, well, its price also falls. Yes. So today, $1 is equal to 80 rupees, let's suppose. But because of this fall in demand for dollar and increased demand for rupee, well, if demand for dollar falls, then price of dollar will also fall from 80 to 75. So if rupee is declining, this swap agreement would arrest that fall. Clear? So this is also correct. 1, 2 and 3. The answer is D. Question 3. Which of the following statements are correct regarding ex-gratia payments? It is a form of legal or court-ordered compensation provided by government as a form of relief in cases of disasters and accidents. There is no specific law or statute that governs ex gratia, and the concerned ministry or department determines the amount and mode of disbursal for ex gratia payments. Look, whenever there is a disaster, accident, or any other mishappening, okay, then government pays people who suffer from this. Now, government makes these payments in two forms. One is known as compensation. Well, compensation is a obligation for the government. It is either a legal obligation or Supreme Court or a High Court have ordered the government to pay this compensation to the affected families. So compensation is a legal obligation. But sometimes governments give out money voluntarily. They are not forced by any law or court order. They just give out voluntarily. This is known as ex gratia payment. Okay, this was in the news because recently Ministry of Railways has decided to hand out ex gratia payments to people or households or families of those persons who were killed in the recent New Delhi railway station stampede. Okay. Now remember, ex gratia is voluntary, it is not mandatory. Okay. So it is a form of legal or court ordered compensation? No. Compensation and ex gratia payments are different. There is a difference between the two. Yes, generally people use these two terms interchangeably, but that shouldn't be the case. Compensation is obligatory, mandatory. Ex gratia is voluntary. Here, so first statement is false. And because ex gratia is not mandatory, is voluntary, so there is no specific law that governs ex gratia. And who decides how much ex gratia payment should be made? Well, the concerned ministry or department would decide. Okay. Currently, Railway Ministry has decided to give out this payment in cash. Tomorrow, it might decide to give out this payment in the form of check because there is no legal obligation. So, mode of disbursal or the amount are decided by the concerned ministry. So, this part is correct. B, only 2. And last, consider the following statements regarding Create India Challenge Season 1. It is organized by Interactive Entertainment and Innovation Council in partnership with Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Main objective is to showcase India's creator economy on a global stage. Now, what do you mean by the term creator economy? Well, these days you know that there are people out there who don't have a job, but they earn a lot of money through YouTube, Instagram, by making reels, videos, posts, right? Now, all these people are content creators and they earn money by creating that content and selling that content, right? So this entire ecosystem is known as creator economy. And these days, especially after lockdown, COVID-19 lockdown, creator economy has skyrocketed. Now, Indian government wants to capitalize on it. There are many content creators in India as well, right? So Indian government wants to capitalize on it. So for that, we have launched Create India Challenge. Okay, it is launched by Ministry of Information and Broadcasting in partnership with Interactive Entertainment and Innovation Council. This part is correct. And the main aim of this challenge is it is basically a competition. Okay, and the main aim of this competition is to showcase India's creators, content creators. Okay, and the one who will win this challenge, well, he will be basically invited to participate in the gaming conference in San Francisco. Any which way, the main objective is to showcase India's creator economy on a global stage. This part is also correct. Both are correct. The answer is C. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'm sure this lecture has added value to your preparation. But it would add more value if you'll revise this lecture as well. And by revision, I mean spending another 5 to 10 minutes taking a look at written detailed solutions to each and every MCQ discussed above. Now, you can find those solutions in the notes provided by us, and these notes are available on our Telegram channel. Now, where can you find this Telegram channel? Well, just below this video in the comment section, you'll find a link. You just have to click on that link. It will take you to our Telegram channel, and from there you can download the notes for not just this lecture, but all the other lectures featuring on our YouTube channel. On that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.